Hello, everybody, and welcome to News of the Week, episode number 11 on the Seahawk Recap Show with your host, Ryan Koki. How are we all feeling after week 6? Well, I can tell you how I'm feeling as a Seahawks fan. I'm not that happy about the Bengals game. It was a completely winnable game, but if you would like to see me recapping that week 6 game and giving more in-depth thoughts on the game, you could see that game in the Seahawk game recap playlist on my channel. So, without further ado, before I ramble on too much, let's get into this week's episode, shall we? And I named it Three More Years, and this is exactly why it's named Three More Years. Because of the NFL commissioner Roger Goodell getting his new contract. This new contract comes in ends at March 2027. So Roger Goodell is now extended once again, and his contract is until again March 2027. However, honestly, by my standpoint, I actually don't have too many bad things to say about Roger Goodell. So I think this is a good decision by NFL ownership. In my time as a football fan, so 2012 is when I really got into football and really started paying more attention. All I have seen is this league grow, and he's trying to grow the game by making it a kind of global sport, which, to be honest, is his job. As NFL commissioner, he is supposed to get this sport of his to get as much exposure and as much money as possible, which he's done really. Hosting games in London and then hosting games in Germany, making it more internationally available, which brings in more fans to the sport, which brings in obviously more revenue for the teams and himself. Um, but honestly, I don't understand why people dislike him as NFL commissioner. If you would like, please put your comments down below if you like this signing, this rehiring, I guess, re-signing of Roger Goodell, or you think he needs to be out of the league. But honestly, from my standpoint, I don't know why people dislike him as much. He's created a ton of revenue for the sport, and a lot of people are calling him online, oh, it's the no fun league instead of the National Football League because they find it's funny. People are getting upset that, oh, it's not old football. Well, from what I can tell, old football was very dangerous. There wasn't as much, there was so many big hits that caused a lot of different issues in terms of injuries and things. I just think a lot of those people are missing the old hard hitting football, but they don't understand that the world has changed and we are now much more careful about health and safety, or at least trying to be. Um, and there are two things I want to discuss about Roger Goodell. I don't mind him as commissioner, but I think he's not without flaws. One of his flaws that I would really like to see him change in the next 3 years that he's here as NFL commissioner is that he needs to get rid of the turf fields. Uh, we talk about health and safety of players all the time. Well, turf fields are a direct deterrent to health and safety. They cause a lot of ACL tears. They cause a lot of Achilles tears. And I brought this up on the show before in the injury report. I brought this up last week in episode number 10, injury week. And this is exactly why. You want to make as much money as possible while keeping your best players on the field for longer during the season will do that. And another thing is the officiating. This I don't actually believe is Roger Goodell's fault. I think a clarifying of the rules not only for the players but for the refs. I know people are saying, "Oh, it's the no fun league anymore. Players can't really celebrate touchdowns without getting a flag thrown at them for taunting and things like that." Well, the taunting rule. Okay, let me just explain. I don't like the taunting rule either. As a fan, I don't like the taunting rule. I don't like some of the rules that Roger Goodell has implemented in terms of penalties, like the roughing the passer. penalties recently have been really out of hand, but I don't honestly think that's Roger Goodell's fault. I think that falls more on the officiating than anything else. And I think a just clarifying of the rules and showing the refs, here's what roughing the passer used to be, here's what it needs to be, is one way to fix it. Um, Again, like I said, if you would like, you could put your comments down below. Just keep them, keep them civil. Whether you like Roger Goodell as the staying as commissioner, or would you rather see a change? Because a lot of people, you know, from what I was seeing online, actually don't mind Roger Goodell as the NFL commissioner. There's a reason why he's been doing this since 2006, and it looks like it'll continue to at least 2027. Anyways, after that, let's segue into the week 6 game recap. And I'm doing something a little bit different. I wanted to do this a while ago, actually. And I decided to put the records of the NFL teams just so that it makes it a lot easier for me to talk about and so that I just don't mess up the records. We start off on Thursday night football. The Chiefs versus Broncos, 19-8. Chiefs win. They're now 5-1. The Broncos are 1-5. Russell Wilson did not have a good game in this one for Thursday night. And now again, like I've said, I believe 2 episodes ago now, when I was talking about early season decisions, do you tank the rest of the season? And if you're gonna tank the rest of the season for the Broncos, do you just go into a complete rebuild? Because it seems like this really isn't working, and you really just need to tear this team. Do you need to tear this team down to the studs, or do you continue to try to retool on the fly? For me, honestly, I think tearing it down to the studs would be best. Next up on the list, we get a London game, and it's the Ravens winning that one 24-16 against the Titans. And honestly, the Ravens wouldn't have won this game if it wasn't for Justin Tucker. I think he kicked 6 field goals in that game? 5 field goals, 6 field goals in that game? It was something like super impressive. Uh, and you know what? The Ravens are 4-2, and the Titans are 2-4. So, we'll see what happens next week. And Dolphins versus Panthers. Panthers, I'm so sorry. You're the only team that is 0-6 right now. Again, rebuilding team, like I've said every week up to this point, but you guys really need to figure something out because you guys don't have your first round pick this year. You need to at least turn it around in the next couple weeks because it's not looking good for you guys. The Dolphins continue to hum at 5-1, 42-21. Dolphins win that one out. Texans versus Saints, 20-13. Texans win 3-3 on the year and 3-3 for the Saints as well. Just nice to see that, the Texans, even in a rebuilding year, with D'Amico Ryan, I think he honestly could win Coach of the Year because he's done so much for that team already, and I think this is the right guy to have for your rebuilt Texans. And Saints, you know what? Just keep on going. You guys lost this one in kind of an embarrassing fashion. You just need to keep on trucking and see where it takes you for the rest of the season. Falcons versus the Commanders, 24-16. Commanders win that one out. And the defense was what made it there. They won this game single-handedly almost. Not in terms of real points, but just in terms of how many turnovers that the Falcons offense caused. Good win for the Commanders. And we get to the Jags and Colts, and the Jags look to be wanting to run away with the AFC South. 4-2, and Colts 3-3, 37-20. Again, Jaguars win it out. Nice to see, and I can't wait to see what happens in the playoffs because I like all the teams right now that are winning games. I've seen some of the playoff picture predictions because sometimes the NFL gives out those. If the playoffs ended today, where would teams be? And I really am excited for these playoffs in particular. One thing I'm not excited for is the Bengals beating the Seahawks 17-13. Again, Bengals win at home. And again, I'm not going to try spoiling too much away, but this was such a winnable game. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, just the red zone offense wasn't there, and they just Seahawks just lost it. But we'll come back in week 7 and see if we can clean up some of the errors. Speaking of cleaning up some of the errors, the Bears versus Vikings 19-13. Vikings win it out. Bears, man. Now you've got Justin Fields dislocated thumb. He's doubtful for week 7, and hopefully it's not a long-term injury. It doesn't seem to be, but now you're without your starting quarterback possibly for at least the next game in week 7. So good luck to you. Vikings, it's really time to build on momentum, guys. You're 2-4. You need to keep on winning to keep your hopes alive for the playoffs. Browns versus 49ers. No more undefeated for the 49ers. 5-1. Browns win 19-17. And, one of the reasons I think the Browns won this, their defense. Their defense is one of the best in the league, if not the best in the league. Uh, the way that they chewed through Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy did have some guys that were injured. Christian McCaffrey was a big one who left the game. Starting left tackle Trent Williams left the game as well, and Deebo Samuel left the game as well. So that's 3 guys that you're looking at, potentially out for week 7 or beyond. But again, good run from the 49ers. Going 5-1 isn't terrible. You guys are still probably going to win the NFC West, and probably are going to challenge the Eagles for the NFC championship title. So good on you guys. And honestly, you didn't lose by that much. You lost by 2 points. So, come back stronger next week in week 7, and we'll see you there. For the Browns, your defense, just needs to keep carrying your team. No Nick Chubb, no Deshaun Watson for this game either. But if you guys can keep putting in stellar performances like that on defense, you guys can be scary. So we'll see what happens next week. But we get to the Raiders and Patriots. 21-17. Raiders win that, and Josh McDaniels beats Bill Belichick. And I don't know what to say about the Patriots. They're 1-5. They haven't been very good since losing Tom Brady in 2020. So I think it's time not to make a coaching change, but to actually bring in a GM. At this point, I think you can keep Bill Belichick on as a coach. I think he's taken on too much responsibility as GM. I think you need to hire a GM. Because right now, Bill Belichick is acting as GM and head coach. I don't think he can do both. He can scheme good defenses, but he needs an extra set of eyes and maybe an extra set of, adaptability on the football field. And I think a new GM would do that. For the Raiders, good win for you guys. 3-3. Keep on pushing because the AFC, man, it's only week 6, 11 more games left. So you guys can really push for the playoffs. You just need to keep winning now. And we get to the Bucks and Lions 20-6. This was a very dominant win, and this shows me that the Lions are a playoff contender. NFC is going to have maybe at least 3 Giants looking, well, actually 4 Giants, because I'm a Seahawks fan and I think the Seahawks will challenge for the NFC, but that's just being a Seahawks fan and being biased. But in all realisticness, the Lions are putting on a show and a dominant win over the Buccaneers. Nice to see. So it'll be nice to see that battle in the NFC to see who actually takes this whole entire conference. So we get to the Rams versus the Cardinals. Again, like I've said every week up to this point, Cardinals are rebuilding. Decent enough try. Nice to see the Rams and Cooper Kupp and Puka Nakua doing very well. Now the NFC West is very tight for that second spot. It's nice to see because now it's the Seahawks and Rams fighting for the second overall spot. 26-9, Rams win. We get to the Jets versus Eagles, another undefeated. So now that is it. In week 6, there is no more undefeated teams. Every single team has been defeated. Jets win that one out 20-14. And that Jets defense, man, really good. I was thinking after Aaron Rodgers had his Achilles torn that, this team was going to be dead in the water, but it looks like they're still kicking. So 3-3 at week 6, not too terrible. 5-1 for the Eagles, not too bad. Just keep on pushing for the playoffs, guys. Bills versus Giants. And I think Giants, now it's time to throw in the towel, man. Throw in the towel and try to get a big draft pick because 1-5, not looking too great. 14-9. This was a very low scoring game. And Josh Allen, I just gotta say, you got Stephon Diggs. Like, you should be able to score more than 14 points on the Giants. I'm sorry. If every team is shellacking the Giants in terms of points, you guys should be able to score more than 2 touchdowns worth. Good from Tyrod Taylor coming in for Daniel Jones after his neck injury. Not a bad game from him through, I believe, 200 yards on the dot. So not bad from Tyrod Taylor coming in. And we get to the Chargers and Cowboys 20-17. Cowboys win on Monday Night Football. 4-2 now on the season against the Chargers, who were 2-3. So honestly, Cowboys, you and the Eagles are fighting for this division, man. So good luck to whoever comes out on top of that. For the week 6 buys, we had the Packers and Steelers, so they did not play, but they will play in week 7. Now we move on to the week 6 IR report, and I'm going to keep naming it the IR report from now on because it really is, so that I don't have to keep reminding people that it's only IR injuries. So let's start off with Carolina Panthers safety listed as out, Jeremy Chin, October 18th. So he wasn't placed on IR, but he has a quad injury and he's expected to miss 6 weeks. So therefore, he's basically like he's not actually put on IR just yet as I'm recording this, but I'm pretty sure if he's expected to miss 6 weeks, he will be put on IR to at least miss those 4 games. And we get an update on Anthony Richardson. Remember last week when we were talking about his shoulder injury? He is going to require season-ending shoulder surgery, so he's out for the season. October 11th, placed on IR, is now out for the rest of his rookie season. Again, really sucks because I like rookies. I really like Anthony Richardson, but I guess it's Minshew mania time for the Colts, and we'll see what happens with the rest of their season. And Marcus Davenport, another blow to the Vikings as they place another guy on IR, and it's the 18th of October, ankle sprain. He will miss the next 4 games at minimum. And we get to the Texans, and they place Eric Murray, strong safety, October 18th on IR. He will miss the next 4 games with a knee injury. Now, there were a lot of questionable injuries in week 6. There were so many injuries in week 6 that I'm so glad that I'm only doing IR because the amount of slides that I would have to put into this presentation into my prep time would have drowned this whole episode. I would have had to just make an episode just for injuries in week 6. There was a lot of them. but a lot of questionable ones. So hopefully everyone can stay healthy for week 7. That would be a really nice blessing. We get on to the final thing I wanted to talk about for this week, and it's some week 6 movement. So, 34-year-old Julio Jones is signed by the practice squad of the Eagles. He's making $370,000 for 1 year. So he's making less than league min. And one of the reasons why they brought him in, with injuries to Quez Watkins and Devontae Smith, both hamstring injuries, Jones will likely act as a wide receiver 3 in the slot. Honestly, Julio Jones, great receiver. He's not what he used to be. Far from it. He's not a speed guy anymore like he was on the Falcons. And he's had trouble staying on teams because of injuries and because of production issues. But this guy, he needs no introduction. He's one of the best receivers in the league, or used to be, and he can still run block. He can still be a wide receiver 3 slot guy who can be a big red zone threat because the guy still knows how to run routes. His speed is the only issue. So he won't be a boundary. He'll be a slot, and it'll be nice to see what he will do with the Eagles the rest of the season. Speaking of wide receiver, McCole Hartman is traded from the Jets back to the Chiefs, where it all started. $4 million contract for 1 year signed this offseason with the Jets. He gets traded because he got buried under the depth chart because he had a rookie in Xavier Gibson, I believe, if I remember correctly, take his spot as the 5th wide receiver. And he also took his special team duties as well. So there's no room for McCole Hartman. And guess who needs receiver help? It is the Chiefs. But let's get into the trade details before I discuss that. So the Jets get a 2025 6th round pick. Chiefs obviously get Hartman and a 2025 7th round pick. So when we're talking about the Chiefs, here's the issue they've been having. Rashee Rice. If you don't know that name, it's okay. He is a rookie from this draft, a 2nd round pick, and he leads all receivers on the Chiefs right now in yards right now. That's not good considering that you have 3 other receivers in Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, and Marco Valdez Scantling, who combined this season have like 36 receptions for 368 yards. So they bring in McCole Hartman to try and maybe get a second receiver who can actually be very good. McCole Hartman has been on the Chiefs before. He started his career with the Chiefs, and he knows Patrick Mahomes. He's a big speed threat guy. He's a deep threat. He's a guy that'll go up and catch the deep balls when needed. So we'll see what he does this season for the rest of the season with the Chiefs, and we'll see if he actually signs with the Chiefs this offseason because he's only got a 1 year deal. So he needs a contract extension. So he'll be playing for his job for the remainder of the season. And let's talk about something else. Myles Gaskin. So if you don't know who Myles Gaskin is, I wouldn't blame you. He was a former Miami Dolphin for the last 4 years. He has signed a $1 million 1 year contract with the LA Rams. With injuries for both Kyrie Williams and Ronnie Rivers, and with no timetable for their return, this is purely a replacement move. So they've now got Cam Akers, Myles Gaskins, and Royce Freeman, who they just signed from their own practice squad to fill out those 3 positions. It looks like Kyrie Williams and Ronnie Rivers will be evaluated for their injuries. I don't remember exactly what the injuries were, but I think it's something to do with their ankles or hamstrings. So Myles Gaskins, a good depth pickup. He's an injury replacement, really. He's got 1,000 yards in his career. He's had 361 carries, so not a bad move. Honestly, with the amount of injuries to that backfield, I'm believing that Cam Akers and Myles Gaskins will get the majority of the carries. They'll be able to split carries, and hopefully Miles Gaskins because I like him. I honestly really liked him on the Dolphins, but he really didn't produce too much on the Dolphins with his 4-year stint there. But I hope he gets a job and shows that he can still play football at a high level for the Los Angeles Rams. Anyways, that is it for news of the week, hosted by yours truly, Ryan Koki. If you liked it, please consider giving it a like. If you really liked it and would like to see any more future content from me, please consider subscribing. And if you would also please share this with all your Seahawks buddies or just fans that like football content in general. So, anyways, this has been Ryan Koki of the Seahawks Recap Show signing off. Go Hawks, go! And don't forget to come back to the channel on Monday as I will be recapping the Seahawks versus the Cardinals for week 7. Hope to see you then.